You're listening to the news on RainierAvenueRadio.World. I'm Tony B. Today is Wednesday, November 21st. The news on Rainier Avenue Radio is live every Wednesday from 6:30 to 7, providing you with current, trustworthy, useful news content focused on super service to the local South Seattle audience. Will not tell you what to think, but instead provide you with the basics for you to discern and decide for yourself. The news on Rainier Avenue Radio. A protest took place on Tuesday morning outside of Minchie's frozen yogurt store in Kirkland, where a black court advocate who was supervising a court-ordered visitation was asked to leave by police for being an unwanted subject. Byron Ragland, a 31-year-old military veteran who now works as a court-appointed advocate, arrived at Minchie's with the mother and child he was supervising. They were there for about 30 minutes before police arrived and asked him to move along. They asked me to leave, Ragland said. They asked for my ID. They told me the manager had been watching me and wanted me to move along. Ragland did heed the police officer's warning, even though he told him he was legally required to be there for the visitation between the mother and her 12-year-old son. The police report shows that employees had called the store manager and told him that Ragland was making them uncomfortable. The employees said he had been there for a while and had not purchased anything. The report also shows that the officers were told that Ragland was working there, but that wasn't enough. Ragland said that the police have now issued a statement and apology after reviewing the incident. The Kirkland Police Department issued a statement saying, "Our initial assessment showed that the interaction that occurred did not meet the expectations of our community or the high standards we set for ourselves. As a result, Mr. Ragland and the other individuals that were with him were left feeling unwelcome in Kirkland." Well, civil rights groups did step in and highlighted this incident and a rally and protest. At the rally and protest, Gerald Hankerson, the president of the Seattle King County NAACP, said, "From Starbucks in Philadelphia to Minchie's in Kirkland, Black people are continuously racially profiled across the country, where police are called to further facilitate acts of racism at the expense of African-American men and women." And now we're going to go to TC for a little local news, more local news actually, right here.
Mm-hmm. In other local news, Transgender Day of Remembrance was yesterday following Transgender Awareness Week, which was the 12th through the 19th of November. Transgender Remembrance Day was started by a transgender advocate, Gwendolyn Ann Smith, as a vigil to honor her memory of Rita Hester, a transgender woman who was killed in 1998. The vigil commemorated all the transgender people lost to violence that year and began an important memorial that has become the annual Transgender Day of Remembrance. Yesterday's Transgender Day of Remembrance honored all those whose lives were lost to anti-transgender violence in 2018. Vigils are hosted by local transgender advocates or LGBT organizations and held at community centers, parks, places of worship, and other venues. Now, with the Christmas season coming up, El Centro de la Raza, located in Beacon Hill, is selling Christmas trees from November 23rd through December 20th, or until supplies last. Quote, "We are selling fresh and organic trees, Nordman, Noble, and Douglas firs, available in various heights. When you purchase a Christmas tree from El Centro de la Raza, you are supporting small business owners of color, Adrian and Evancio Gonzalez, two brothers who supply, own, and operate in Onalaska, Washington." End quote. Quote, "You can purchase and pick up your tree at our Christmas tree lot located on the north side of the building, located at 2524 16th Avenue South. This event helps El Centro de la Raza raise funds to support our human services and community building programs that benefit 14,000 plus vulnerable and underrepresented children, adults, and families annually. By purchasing a Christmas tree from us, you are directly contributing to our community while supporting El Centro de la Raza and providing 43 high-quality services and programs. If your home does not need a Christmas tree this season, consider purchasing one to donate to the home of a low-income family." End quote. This will be happening Monday through Friday, 4 to 8 p.m., Saturday to Sunday, 12 through 8 p.m., and again at El Centro de la Raza, 2524 16th Ave South. Back to you, Tony.
In more local news, this is from the Board of Health. King County has approved gun warning sign requirements. So warning signs must now be posted in all King County gun stores and firing ranges. Gun stores in King County will be required to post warning signs in their stores following approval of the County Board of Health resolution on November 15th. This regulation requires that all firing ranges and gun stores post signs notifying buyers and shooters that owning a gun could increase the risk of death by suicide, in domestic violence, and by children accidentally gaining access to them. Legislation will be enforced within 30 days in all cities and unincorporated areas in King County, according to the Board of Health. This is the news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
This is the news on RainierAvenueRadio.World. This is Karen Z. And in local news, on Thanksgiving Day, join the 7th annual Mario D. Bailey Foundation Family Feast at the Royal Esquire Club in Columbia City. You can volunteer or attend for free, all ages from noon to 3 p.m. For more information, go to mdbfoundation.org. And coming up, the Seattle Municipal Court and partners are offering a city information session at Delridge Community Center on Friday, November 30th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Representatives will be available to assist you with options for resolving unpaid tickets, public defender screening, Medicaid insurance questions, vision exams and eyeglass vouchers, and more. And Seattle Parks Department is now offering their winter program brochures. You can find preschool programs, licensed school-aged care, citywide athletics, pool programs, and community center classes. Winter registration opens on December 4th. Find more information at seattle.gov/parks. And you have one more week. Seattle Public Utilities is offering free extra yard waste in November. Up until the 30th, extra yard waste must be in paper bags or placed in an extra container that contains only yard waste, up to 10 extra bags. And you can join the Rainier Beach Merchants Association for their leaf pickup party on Sunday, December 2nd. Meet at King Donuts for a snack at 1 p.m. Help keep the neighborhood looking beautiful. And now to John Yasutake.
Thank you, Karen. This is John Yasutake with news on RainierAvenueRadio.World. We have information from the University of California. Researchers have found that there is discrimination going online. It used to be a case where it was face-to-face discrimination. Now, in a study conducted by the Hall School of Business, they have found that $500 million differentiation between Black and Latino mortgage buyers as opposed to their white counterparts is existing in the business. And they're finding out that statistical data used and machines that are using these scoring and ratings are actually committing the issue, actually committing discrimination based on data that was provided by both Black and Latino borrowers. And what that means is there's at least $500 million difference in payouts for mortgages over a standard 15 to 30 year period. The Haas study also shows that there has also, however, there's a positive side to this. The level of discrimination has reduced over the years, and we're talking about a 30-year study. They looked at mortgage payments from 2008 to 2015, actually a 7-year period. And what they found out is that somehow the discrimination has lessened in terms of the actual face-to-face, but it's increased on the algorithmic side. In other words, data being done online is producing this discriminatory effect. So more studies are going to be conducted. The United States Department of Housing and Urban Development is taking a strong look at this study that can, again, come out of the University of California at Berkeley. Second, we got something that's a more positive vein. Bill Gates has offered $100 million donation to Alzheimer research. His father suffers from Alzheimer, the disease, and he is making a commitment of $100 million. A significant portion of that is going to go to research for medications because, as it's been put and stated, there are no survivors. There is no preventive aspect of treatment for Alzheimer's or dementia. And so he's made a commitment of $100 million, $30 million of which will go directly into research for medications. So there's some good news on the Alzheimer's dementia front coming from Bill Gates. And that's it from John Yasutake. Back to Karen Z.
Thank you, John. And we have some regional news for you regarding a hate group warning from the FBI. The Columbian in southern Washington shared that the Clark County Sheriff's Office received a warning from the FBI about the hate group Proud Boys recruiting in the Northwest. They are seen as an extremist group by the federal agency with ties to white nationalism. The FBI has warned local law enforcement agencies that the Proud Boys are actively recruiting in the Pacific Northwest and have contributed to recent escalation of violence at political rallies held in Portland and in Seattle. The Proud Boys were labeled a hate group by extremism watchers at the Southern Poverty Law Center. And back to Tony.
Again, this is Rainier Avenue Radio, the news. Locally, the news on Rainier Avenue Radio would like to tell you about King County Metro Transit's bus drivers that will pause this Friday. All Metro buses pausing this Friday at 3:20 to remember their colleague, Mark McLaughlin, who was fatally shot by a deranged passenger on the Aurora Bridge 20 years ago. The incident was aboard Route 359 on November 27th in 1998. Sent the bus through a guardrail where it landed on an apartment roof in Fremont. The gunman then shot himself. Another man aboard died from medical complications while 32 passengers were injured. The route was renumbered to 358 and is today known as the Rapid Ride E-Line, serving 18,000 daily riders. A plaque next to the bridge's east side walk marks the site. Longtime bus operators still talk about McLaughlin, who was known to give bubblegum to customers. He was 44 years old and left behind two teenage sons. Again, on Friday at 3:20 p.m., Metro buses will pause in remembrance of their colleague, Mark McLaughlin. And in crime, 2 days ago, a 26-year-old man was shot and killed near White Center on Monday. According to King County Sheriff's Office, the investigators do not yet know what led up to the shooting or how many suspects may have been involved. This is from Sheriff's spokesman, Sergeant Ryan Abbott. Deputies were dispatched at 7:30 and found the victim dead inside the house in the 10,000 block of First Avenue Southwest. The suspect fled, but it's unknown whether on foot or in a vehicle. A canine search of the area did not find anyone. This is the news on Rainier Avenue Radio, and now we'll go to Taylor Kareem.
In teen world news, nothing lasts forever, and a German teenager has learned that lesson the hard way by losing his driving license just 49 minutes after passing his test. The 18-year-old, who was apparently celebrating his achievement by driving 4 of his friends around, was clocked, traveling at almost twice the speed limit, no less than an hour after his test. He had a short-lived license revoked for 4 weeks and will have to have more training sessions behind the wheel. The teenager was also hit with a €200 or $228 fine after being caught traveling at 95 kilometers per hour in a 50 kilometer per hour zone. So for all the teens who are getting a license, be smart about that. In national news, public health warning from the Center of Disease Control: romaine lettuce is unsafe to eat and should be thrown out. Quote, in the wake of a new E. coli outbreak, the CDC is urging Americans to throw away any kind of lettuce they can't identify. Health officials warned Tuesday that all romaine lettuce should be thrown away amid a new multi-state outbreak of E. coli bacteria. End quote. The adversary from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention follows 32 confirmed cases of the bacteria in 11 states and Canada. Of those cases, 13 people have been hospitalized, including one person who experienced a type of kidney failure. No deaths have been reported. Quote, consumers who have any type of romaine lettuce in their home should not eat it and throw it away, even if some of it was eaten and no one has gotten sick, end quote, the CDC said. The specific strain detected in the current outbreak is related to a strain that infected people in 2017 in the U.S. and in Canada, the CDC said. Symptoms of E. coli infection, which typically begin 3 to 4 days after the bacteria is ingested, include severe stomach cramps, diarrhea, and vomiting. Most people recover within 5 to 7 days, though in some severe cases, the illnesses can be life-threatening, according to the CDC's website. All right, thank you.
This is the news on RainierAvenueRadio.World. And in national news, the crackdown on the border. The Trump administration's crackdown on refugees crossing into the U.S. from Mexico was suspended late Monday by a federal judge, prompting a response from the Justice Department and the Homeland Security Department, which said that they would continue to defend the administration's authority to deal with the crisis at the border. In a joint statement issued Tuesday, DHS spokeswoman Katie Weldman and DOJ spokesman Stephen Stafford dismissed the lawsuit by advocacy groups that prompted the judge's ruling as, quote, absurd, and cited the Supreme Court's ruling over the summer upholding the President Trump's executive order banning entry to the U.S. for citizens of certain predominantly Muslim countries as proof that, quote, Congress has given the president broad authority to limit or even stop the entry of aliens into this country, end quote. Further, asylum is a discretionary benefit given by the executive branch only when legal conditions are met and a favorable exercise of discretion is warranted. The statement continued, insisting, it is lawful and appropriate that this discretionary benefit not be given to those who violate a lawful and tailored presidential proclamation aimed at controlling immigration in the national interest. We look forward to continuing to defend the executive branch's legitimate and well-reasoned exercise of its authority to address the crisis at our southern border. Asked whether the administration still intended to enforce the proclamation restrictions in light of the judge's order, a DHS spokesperson said Tuesday that the DHS is still reviewing the order. The statement comes after a federal judge issued a temporary restraining order barring the Trump administration from enforcing a presidential proclamation restricting access to asylum on the southern border. Trump framed the rule, which automatically denied asylum to migrants who cross the border at locations other than official points of entry, as a national security measure to protect against an invasion by mostly Central American migrants who are traveling through Mexico in caravans towards the U.S. And back to Tony.
And time for a little sports news. Congratulations to number 3 Gonzaga, who held off top-ranked Duke 89-87 last night to take the Maui Classic. So Gonzaga could move up to that number 1 spot, potentially. Congratulations to Gonzaga. And on Friday, it's the Apple Cup. University of Washington Huskies taking on the Washington State Cougars this Friday at 5:30. And despite having what seemed like all of the advantages on paper, this Friday's game looks like Wazoo could actually hold the advantage. The Dogs started the year ranked number 6 and were meant to be the leaders of the Pac-12. The Cougs, on the other hand, were unranked and supposed to have a down year. Well, the scrappy younger brother, if you want to call them that, Cougs may not like that statement, has now surpassed the Huskies, the big brother. And this win could send Karen a stark message to the rest of the college football world and a rallying cry for smaller programs everywhere. So Cougars and Huskies in an Apple Cup this Friday at 5:30. Also, the Seahawks stand at 5-5. Well, just a week ago, they were on the wrong side of 500 at 4-5, and they saw their playoff chances kind of sinking. The small margin of error caused by their 0-2 start to the season was finally catching up with Seattle. The tide shifted after this last Sunday with a come-from-behind victory over the Green Bay Packers in prime time last Thursday. And after a bunch of other favorable results on Sunday, the Seahawks suddenly find themselves in control of their own fate as an NFC wildcard. Seattle's playoff chances improved from 29% to 45% in the last 4 days, and the Seahawks can now slide into a wildcard spot by beating the Carolina Panthers this Sunday. That game, again, is at 10 o'clock on Sunday. Seahawks now control their own destiny after an 0-2 start. Karen, back to you.
Thank you, Tony. And I have some news on local traffic. The Seattle Department of Neighborhoods and the Department of Transportation are hosting 5 information sessions over the next 2 weeks on the upcoming permanent closure of the Alaskan Way Viaduct as SDOT realigns State Route 99, the new tunnel that will open in early February, and other upcoming challenges to our transportation system. There will be 5 sessions over the next 2 weeks, including at Delridge Community Center, Belltown Community Center, Good Shepherd, Northgate Community Center, and Southside Commons. All sessions will be held from 6:30 to 7:30. You can find more information at Seattle Department of Neighborhoods at frontporch.gov or on the RainierAvenueRadio.World website. In addition, the Seattle Department of Transportation has launched a new website at seattle.gov/traffic to provide you with the latest information, tools, and resources that you'll need to move safely through Seattle. And back to Tony.
You know, speaking of transportation, we'll kind of stay on that theme. To give people more options about getting around Seattle, Mayor Jenny Durkin and Seattle launched the Free Floating Bike Share Plan. SDOT anticipates that issuing permits to Lime and Lyft in the coming weeks will give Seattle residents and visitors additional options for getting around Seattle and accessing transit hubs. Those vendors also pay a total of approximately $1 million to the city of Seattle for their annual permits in 2018 and 2019. Under the new permits, each vendor is permitted, I don't know why this figure, but 6,666 bikes, which could ramp up to nearly 20,000 available bikes by spring of 2019 with their full fleet sizes. Vendors are required to make bikes available throughout Seattle and will focus on areas around transit hubs. And this is the news on RainierAvenueRadio.World. You know, Karen, before we go, I have to say we've got a number of amazing programs that people need to stay tuned for and go to our website and look for. If you're watching on Facebook, go to RainierAvenueRadio.World. And I want to make sure that we welcome back a show called The Gumbo. Remember The Gumbo?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Dom is coming back. So welcome back, Dom. Just had to get that shout in there to Dom. Everyone have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 8:30 on the radio with this very same show. And as soon as the show's over, if you feel like you've missed anything, you can click on our Facebook page and watch it all again. And that's the news on RainierAvenueRadio.World.